Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card. Today's card uses Peerless Watercolors, and I have a great giveaway for you. It's this little mini travel kit of Peerless Watercolors made by Beth over at Olive Me Artsy. That's her Etsy shop, and I'll have a link in the video description. If you'd like to enter into a chance to win this, all you have to do is leave a comment. Just follow this link to my blog and leave your comment by Monday, June 1st. Now for the card today, I'm using this Summer Silhouette stamp set by Stampin' Up! Along with my Peerless Watercolors. I have a video tutorial, which I'll link to here, that gives a review of the watercolors and how to store them. Now I'm going to start off by stamping my Dandelion stems in Ranger Archival ink. I did a review of 11 different black inks on my Live Love card site and found that this ink was the best for watercoloring. Now I'm stamping these stems on a piece of Strathmore watercolor paper, cut I think just a little bit larger than 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I keep a vellum sheet inside my wood-mounted stamp so that I don't have to re-ink my Stamp-A-Majig sheet every single time. So I'm going to randomly stamp these up and down, leaving enough space for the different dandelion flowers I'm going to put on top. And I missed the bottom of the stem here, so I'm just going to color it in with a Copic multiliner. Now I've started using the absorber. It's a chamois cloth to clean off my stamps, and I find that it's so much better than a Stamp and Scrub that gets dirty a lot and baby wipes that kind of leave those little threads that you end up stamping later. So I love this absorber. Alright, now I'm going to put the dandelion little flowers on there, and I'm going to white emboss these. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put 2 layers of these flowers on because I wanted it to be kind of higher. I wanted these flowers to be more rounded. So I'm stamping it once using the Versamark ink, and then I'm going to move it up and stamp it again, and then I'll cover both of those layers with white embossing powder. Now if you get any embossing powder in areas that you don't want it, you can always brush it off with a brush. I'm not sure why my archival ink stayed wet for that long. It usually dries pretty quickly. And then I just heat that to set it. And then I'll continue on with all of these flowers using my Stamp-A-Majig to put 2 layers on each dandelion stem. And then here I am heat setting the last one. Alright, now I'm going to be using some masking fluid. And it just comes in a bottle. You're not supposed to shake it, you're just supposed to stir it. And I'm going to apply it with this brush, which I kind of dedicated to this masking fluid. And I put it in a box because it tends to be a little messy. So I'm going to get some of my masking fluid on a brush, and then I'm going to tap it on the top, and you can see that this big, huge drop of it fell on my cardstock. And at first I was like, what am I going to do about this? But then I realized, you know, it's just going to dry and I can peel it up. Because what this is doing is it's creating dots that will resist whatever watercolor I put on there, and then I can just peel these dots off. They come right off. So I went ahead and left that big glob there, and I'm going to take it off later before I do my watercoloring. So I'm just going to tap it and get a bunch of dots on here, and I'm going to let it dry. And it actually took a lot longer to dry because that dot was so large. I had to wait for that big one to dry, but normally it wouldn't take more than like 15 or 20 minutes. So you can see how big this thing is, and I'll show you how to get that off. I'm going to be using the sentiment from the Flower Patch set, Be Beautiful, and I'm going to be heat embossing this on vellum. Now my favorite vellum is the Basil 40 pound, and I'm going to prep it with an embossing buddy, which will help with the stray embossing powder not getting stuck to the cardstock. You can see I forgot to clean my stamp, so I was not so happy about that because now my Versamark pad is a little messed up. But anyway, I'm going to stamp it in some Versamark ink and cover it with some black. This is Ranger Superfine embossing powder. Now what I love about my Stampin' Up! Heat tool is it has 2 settings, a low and a high. And so when I'm heat embossing vellum, I always use the low setting. And it takes a little bit longer to heat set, but it really, really helps with the warping of the paper. You can see how this vellum is barely warped. So I love my Stampin' Up! Heat tool. Now that this has dried, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to really peel this off, and it'll come right off, and I'm going to leave all the other masking fluid so that it'll resist. And it'll come out really beautiful when I peel it off. Okay, so now it's time for my Peerless watercolors. I'm also using a Ranger Broad water brush, and I also have a cup of water to add even more water. So the first thing I like to do with backgrounds is to wet my cardstock. So I'm going to spray the whole thing with just some water. Now I'm going to pick up some of this orange yellow and go back and forth, kind of pick it up and blend it upward. Now my paper started to curl a little bit and it's hard to work with it like that. So what I like to do is take a paper piercer and I'll just poke it in the middle and that'll lay it flat so I can easily put the watercolor on. Now I'm going to when I put my purple on, this is heliotrope, I'm not going to touch the orange too much. So to get that line blended, I'm just going to tap it with some plain water. If you start mixing those two colors together, you get more of a brown muddy color and it's not pretty at all. So you just want to use some water to blend those two colors together. Now at the top I've got Alice Blue and I'm just blending that with the purple by tapping it with the water as I did before. I think watercolor can be a little intimidating because it's different every single time and you're not sure what to maybe add or not add. I decided here to add a little bit more purple, and then to have the colors run into each other a little bit more, I sprayed water again. And then you kind of have to know when to stop. And at this point, I think I'm going to stop. So I'm cleaning up here because I think I'm going to stop. And then I thought, you know, I'd really like a little more purple behind those bottom flowers. So I sprayed a little bit more water, and then I grabbed my purple and I started tapping the purple in there. Now it's going to come on really, really dark, but that's okay. Once I get my color on there, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to spray my water downward, like from purple to orange, to kind of push that purple into my orange. And then it was really starting to pool, so I just took a tissue and I pulled it up, soaked it up with my tissue. The nice thing is that I already had a layer of purple on there, so if I wipe up the water at this point, there's still going to be some color underneath. And then I decided to stop. So I cleaned up and I let it dry, and this is how it turned out. I was really, really happy with how it turned out. Now the next step is to remove all of the masking fluid that we put on there. So I'm going to rub it with my finger and just rub it in circles and it all comes off. I'm going to speed this up and you get these beautiful white dots that kind of look like they're from the dandelions. You can see this up close. For my sentiment, I knew I would be putting it at the bottom, and that's why I left some space and didn't put flowers on that bottom edge. Now to apply my vellum sentiment here, I use some glue dots, and you have to strategically place them because otherwise you'll see them through the vellum. So I kind of rolled them to make little snakes out of them and put them behind a few of the letters. So I put one in the middle, and then I put one on the left side and one on the right side. And I chose to use vellum so I wouldn't really block any of the beautiful background that I had just created. And I'm using a paper piercer to kind of fold these glue dots in half and place them on there easily. Now since I only have glue dots underneath my sentiment and I don't want to have the vellum kind of flipping up on the edges, I put some adhesive on the back. And because my sentiment, I made the cardstock longer, I'm just going to fold those around the corner on both sides. And that will make sure that my vellum is held securely in place. Alright, now it's time to adhere this to my card base. I've got some Scotch foam tape, which I found works great. I like it better than the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals that I've used for years and years. So I bought a big, huge roll of this stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to put it on all sides. And I also found that with watercolor panels that tend to warp a little bit, this really holds them flat on your card base. I'm going to adhere this to a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch Neenah folded solar white cardstock, which I always use for my card base. And that is the card for today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to enter the giveaway by clicking here to go to my blog and leave a comment by next Monday, June 1st. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.